I couldn't sleep for 3 weeks after what happened in that parking garage. And to this day, I still check the back seat before I get in my car. It was a Thursday night in late October. I'd stayed late at work. Nothing unusual about that. I was managing inventory at a big retail distribution center just outside of Columbus, Ohio, and the week before a major shipment was always brutal. By the time I finally shut my computer off, it was almost 11:30. The building had mostly cleared out by 9. A few warehouse guys on the overnight shift were still inside, but the offices were empty. I packed up my bag, grabbed my jacket, and headed down to the parking structure attached to the building. 5 levels, maybe 400 spaces. On a normal business day, it was half full. At 11:30 at night, my car and 2 others were the only ones left on level 3. I remember thinking how strange it was that the fluorescent light near the stairwell door was flickering. It had been fine that morning. I made a mental note to report it and kept walking. My car was parked toward the middle of the row, a gray Honda Accord, nothing special. I hit the unlock button on my key fob and watched the taillights flash once. That's when I noticed something. The passenger side rear door wasn't fully closed. I stopped walking. I knew for a fact I had closed every door that morning. I always do. I'm the kind of person who double checks. And it wasn't just slightly open, it was visibly unlatched, sitting maybe an inch away from fully shut. Enough that the interior light hadn't turned on, but not enough to click into place. I stood there for a moment, telling myself I'd probably just not pulled it hard enough. Things like that happen. I looked around the garage. No movement. No sounds except the low hum of the ventilation system and the occasional flicker and buzz from that dying light by the stairs. The 2 other cars in the row were parked farther away. One was a pickup I recognized as belonging to a guy named Dennis from accounting. The other I didn't know. I walked to my car slowly, opened the rear door all the way, and checked the back seat. Nothing. I checked the floor. Nothing. I even leaned in and looked into the footwell behind the driver's seat. Empty. I told myself I was being paranoid. Closed the door firmly this time, heard it latch, and got in the driver's seat. Locked the doors immediately. Started the engine. That's when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my coworker, Angela. She'd left around 9. The message said, "Hey, still in the building. Saw someone on the garage camera walking around your floor for like 20 minutes. Probably nothing, but thought you should know." I read it twice. I looked up from my phone and stared at the concrete wall in front of me. 20 minutes of someone walking around my floor. And I'd just gotten here 5 minutes ago. I texted back, "Just leaving now." "What did they look like?" She replied fast, "Couldn't really tell, camera quality is bad. Dark jacket, I think. Didn't see them come in through the main entrance. Didn't come in through the main entrance." This garage had 2 access points, the main stairwell connected to the office building, which required a badge, and an exterior stairwell on the far end that was supposed to be locked, but I'd heard guys on the loading dock complain it didn't always latch right. I sat in my car with the engine running and the doors locked. My eyes went to the rearview mirror. The row behind me was empty. I scanned left and right through the side mirrors. Nothing. Then I looked at the car I didn't recognize. It was a dark blue sedan parked 3 spots down on my left. I hadn't paid it much attention before, but now I was staring at it. And as I stared, I realized the rear window had condensation on it. Condensation on the inside. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. It was cold that night, but condensation builds on the inside of a window from body heat, from breathing. I put the car in reverse and got out of there. I didn't run the exit arm, I went through it. Snapped it right off. I didn't care. I drove to the gas station 2 miles down the road, pulled under the brightest lights I could find, and called 911. I told them what I saw. The open door, the text from Angela, the condensation. They sent a unit to the garage. What they found was this. The blue sedan was reported stolen 3 days earlier from a neighborhood in Dayton, about 70 miles away. Inside the car, on the back seat, they found a duffel bag. Inside the bag were zip ties, a length of rope, a roll of duct tape, and a prepaid cell phone. The phone had photos on it. Photos taken in that parking garage. Photos of men walking alone to their cars. There were dozens of them taken over what appeared to be several weeks. One of them was me, getting into my car on a Wednesday afternoon, shot from the stairwell door. They never found the person. The exterior stairwell latch had been tampered with. Whoever it was knew the garage, knew the camera blind spots, and had been coming and going without being detected for weeks. The open rear door on my car was never fully explained. Crime scene techs checked for prints. They found a partial on the door handle. Not mine. It didn't match anything in the system. The theory the detective shared with me, quietly, like he didn't want to say it out loud, was that someone had tried to get into my car and something had interrupted them. Maybe a noise. Maybe a car on another level. Or maybe they'd seen me coming and decided to wait in the stolen sedan instead. That's the part I can't shake. The idea that the plan changed in the middle of it. That something shifted in the last moment and I just happened to walk out when it did. I don't park in structures anymore. I find surface lots under lights close to exits. I check my back seat before I open the door. Every single time. I look at every car around me before I get in. It was a Monday night in early November. I was working late at a manufacturing plant outside of Indianapolis, Indiana. My shift ran until 11, and by the time I clocked out and made it through the building, it was closer to 12:40. The parking lot was one of those massive ones, the kind that stretches out so far the light poles only cover maybe half of it. My car was toward the back. I always parked toward the back because I got there before most people, and the spaces near the entrance were always taken by the time I arrived in the morning. The lot was mostly empty by that point. A few cars scattered here and there. The kind of quiet that makes every little sound feel louder than it is. My boots on the asphalt, the hum of the overhead lights, a distant truck somewhere on the highway behind the fence line. I was tired. I had my bag over one shoulder, my keys in my hand, and I was just moving on autopilot. I got within about 20 feet of my car and slowed down. The back window was fogged up. Not the front, not all the windows, just the back. I stopped walking. I told myself it was condensation. Temperature drop. Indiana in November does that. I told myself that. But I hadn't been in that car since 7 in the morning. 16 hours. Whatever heat my car had from the morning commute was long gone. There was no reason for that window to be fogged from the inside unless there was warmth coming from inside the car. Unless something warm was in there. I didn't move for a few seconds, just stood there staring. I ran through everything in my head. Did I leave something in the car, a space heater? No. Could it be a leak, some kind of moisture building up? I didn't know. I wanted it to be something like that. I needed it to be something like that. I pulled my phone out and turned on the flashlight instead of walking closer. I angled it toward the back seat. The beam hit the glass and I couldn't see through the fog, but I could see that the fog was uneven, patchy. I took one step forward, then another. I got close enough to be maybe 10 feet out, and I pointed the light directly at the rear passenger window. There was a shape in the back seat. Not a bag. Not a jacket I'd forgotten. A shape that had mass and dimension and took up space the way a person takes up space. Low in the seat, reclined like someone trying to stay out of view. I didn't say anything. I didn't yell. My voice just wasn't there. I took 3 steps back and then I turned around and I walked fast, not running, not yet, back toward the building. I don't know why I didn't run right away. Shock maybe, or some part of me still arguing that I was wrong. That it was a trick of the light, that I was overtired and seeing things. I got back inside and went straight to the security desk and told the guard what I saw. His name was Darren. I'd seen him every night for 2 years. He didn't hesitate. He radioed for the second guard, told me to stay inside, and the 2 of them went out to my car. I watched through the glass doors. They approached the car from both sides. One of them banged on the trunk. Nothing happened for a second. Then the back door on the driver's side opened. A man got out. I couldn't see his face clearly from where I was standing. Medium height. He put his hands up when the guards approached him. No struggle. He just gave up. Like he'd been through this before, like he knew the process. The police came within 10 minutes. I had to go back outside and give a statement. The officer told me the man had a folding knife on him, a fixed blade in his jacket pocket, and a length of zip tie in the other pocket. He didn't say much else in front of me, but he didn't need to. The zip tie said everything. The man had broken into my car, the Slim Jim method, no damage to the lock, and had been in that back seat for somewhere between 2 and 4 hours based on what they pieced together from the parking lot camera footage. The footage showed him slipping in while the lot was still full and people were moving around everywhere. Nobody noticed. Nobody thought twice about someone standing near a car. He'd been waiting for me to get in and drive away. Once I was moving, I would have had no option. Out on a dark highway, no witnesses, no help. Whatever he'd planned, it would have been on his terms. They got his name from his ID. He'd done time before. Out on parole for about 8 months. The officer taking my statement was professional and calm, the way they get when they've seen enough of the world that nothing surprises them anymore. But at one point he paused, looked up from his notepad and said, "You made the right call not approaching the vehicle." He said it simply. Factual. But there was something in the way he said it that told me he meant something heavier than the words themselves. I drove home in a coworker's car that night. Couldn't even look at mine. There's something that never leaves you after something like that. The distance between a normal Monday night and something I can't even fully bring myself to describe. 20 feet and one fogged window. You know that feeling when something is off but you can't explain why. No alarm went off. Nobody said anything. It was just a parking lot. And somehow that was the worst part. I'm not the kind of person who scares easily. I'm 43 years old. I've lived in the same town in rural Georgia my whole life. I've hunted. I've driven through storms at 2 in the morning. I've handled situations most people would panic over. But what happened on a Wednesday evening in March changed the way I see ordinary places. My wife had a routine appointment at a women's clinic just off Route 19. Nothing serious. She'd been going there every few weeks for a minor thing her doctor was monitoring. I'd driven her before, but this time I had my truck and she wanted to drive herself. Said it was easier. I told her I'd meet her there, grab dinner somewhere close after. I got there about 20 minutes before her appointment ended. The lot was medium-sized, maybe 40 spaces. There was a grocery store on one end, the clinic on the other, and a strip of small businesses in between. A nail salon, a tax office, a place that sold used furniture. Ordinary, completely ordinary. I parked near the middle of the lot and sat in my truck. I had the radio on low. I was scrolling through my phone, not paying much attention to anything. That's when a man walked out of the nail salon. Nothing weird about that. Men go to nail salons. He was maybe mid-30s, jacket, jeans, baseball cap pulled low. He walked to the edge of the lot, stood near a silver sedan. He didn't get in the car. Just stood there. I glanced up once and looked back at my phone. A few minutes later, I noticed a woman walking toward the lot from the direction of the grocery store. She had 2 bags in her hands. Young, maybe late 20s. Dark hair pulled back. She was headed toward a white hatchback parked 2 rows over from me. The man near the silver sedan watched her the moment she stepped off the curb. I told myself people look at people. That's not a crime. But something about how still he went bothered me. He wasn't casual about it. He wasn't glancing. He was locked onto her. She reached her car. She popped the trunk. She was loading her bags. He started walking, not toward the exit, not toward the store, toward her. I set my phone down. He had a casual walk, the kind someone practices, like he was trying to look like he belonged wherever he was going. But I'd grown up hunting. You learn to read movement. And his movement had a direction and a purpose that had nothing to do with where he was pretending to go. She closed her trunk. She hadn't seen him yet. She was reaching for her keys. He was maybe 15 feet away. I opened my door. I didn't have a plan, I didn't think it through. I just stepped out and said, loud enough for both of them to hear, "Hey, how's it going?" I looked directly at him. He stopped. For a moment he just looked at me. No expression I could read. Not embarrassed, not confused, just still. The woman looked up. She saw him, she saw me. I think she did the math faster than I did because she got in her car immediately. Door locked. Engine started. She was out of that lot in under 30 seconds. The man looked at me for another long moment. Then he turned and walked back toward the silver sedan. Not hurried, deliberate. He got in, sat there for a minute, and then drove away slowly. My wife found me standing outside my truck when she came out. She asked me why I looked like I'd seen a ghost. I told her what happened. She grabbed my arm and didn't let go. We reported it to the clinic's front desk before we left. They called the non-emergency police line. An officer came out, took my statement, noted the description of the car. I didn't catch a plate. I told them everything I remembered. The officer told me I'd done the right thing stepping out. He said it in a way that felt like more than just professional courtesy. He said they'd had reports of a similar-sounding man near 2 different shopping areas in the county over the past month. Both times, women had reported feeling followed to their cars. One of them had her door grabbed before she could pull it shut. She'd screamed and he ran. They never made an arrest that I know of. That was over a year ago, and I still think about it. The thing that keeps me up sometimes is how normal everything looked. There was nothing dramatic about that parking lot. It was the kind of place you stop at 100 times in your life without thinking twice. People walking to their cars. Someone near a sedan. That's how it works, I think. It doesn't look like danger. It looks like nothing. It looks like a man standing in a parking lot. And most of the time, that's all it is. But sometimes it isn't. I drive my wife to her appointments now, every single one. She doesn't argue. I don't explain anymore. We both already know why. If you made it through all 3 of those stories and want more videos like this, hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss next one. Drop a comment below telling me which story got to you the most. Like the video, share it with someone who thinks nothing bad ever happens to them. Stay safe.